Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Ali. Welcome back to my world of stocks. I'm still recovering a little bit from being sick, so I apologize if I sound a little off in today's video. But speaking of today's video, we're going to be talking about Tesla and a competitor. Now, see, Tesla is one of my largest stocks in my portfolio who I think has a ton of future potential. But if I was to look for either an alternative stock or even just a great complementary stock to Tesla, then I would go with General Motors, ticker symbol GM. And here's a few quick reasons why. Reason number one, for more of a traditional automaker as opposed to a revolutionary tech company like Tesla, well, I believe GM is still doing a pretty good job of diversifying within the industry. For example, GM has found success in selling several different vehicle types at various price points to meet the mass market, from really popular crossover SUVs starting at just $20,000 to some of the best pickup trucks starting at $30,000 to even high-performance luxury vehicles surpassing $100,000. They also sell various fleet vehicles at many different prices too, and altogether, GM actually posted the highest auto sales in America last year, even surpassing other giants like Toyota, Honda, and more, who, by the way, all of those tend to be cheaper in price as well in most cases. But GM was not only able to grow sales by a double-digit rate, with all of their brands posting positive growth, including Chevy, Cadillac, Buick, and GMC, but they were also the top-selling maker of trucks, full-size pickups, full-size SUVs, smaller crossover SUVs, and even fleet vehicles as well. And if you think that's crazy, it also marked the 10th year in a row for being the bestseller of trucks and almost 5 decades of topping SUV sales too. That's insane. And as a result, they're even expanding overseas too, which by the way includes some very important markets for EVs like China. And speaking of EVs, 2023 was also a record year for their EV sales as well, including a 63% rise in Chevy Bolt sales alone. Which brings me to reason number two, growth potential in EVs. As we all know, EV sales are projected to overtake traditional ICE sales within this decade according to analysts, and GM is investing heavily into this now by electrifying their already super popular SUVs and trucks, including some very hyped up models like the Blazer EV, the Equinox EV, Sierra EV, and my personal favorite, the Silverado EV, which in my opinion is the best looking truck I've seen to date, and it also carries some of the best performance too. Not to mention more niche offerings like the Hummer that can still sell pretty well considering the high price tags. Now, speaking of price, that tends to be something that these legacy automakers do fall short of when trying to transition over to EVs, as they often cannibalize their higher margin ICE vehicles. They're more expensive to build, and they just don't sell in as high volumes either, at least not yet. And don't get me wrong, these are valid concerns here. I mean, there's a reason why GM is only a small position of mine while Tesla is much larger, and certainly the stagnation in profit growth is a big reason for that. However, GM is at least showing promising signs of improvement on this front, which brings me to reason number three, and that's how successful they've been at leveraging the two businesses within one to achieve profitability. In fact, this was something that management heavily emphasized in their latest earnings, where they not only beat EPS estimates by over 20% and grew their net income by over 24%, but they also raised guidance, including even a profit forecast for their EV unit by the end of this year. Guys, that's a huge deal. And again, this has a lot to do with them leveraging both sides of the business. So in the report, they note that their operating and free cash flows will be better than previously expected as they use the strength within their ICE portfolio to scale EVs and reinvest in the business. In other words, their ICE business is generating enough cash for them to survive a volatile EV market while still allowing them to invest strategically into EVs. Because as you guys know, EV demand has actually been a lot softer this past year given the horrible macroeconomic environment that has really even affected Tesla in many ways too. Well, to navigate volatile times like these, GM actually invested billions of dollars into upgrading their factories like the one in Tennessee so that they can now produce both electric vehicles and ICE vehicles on the same assembly line, which allows them to either scale up or scale down EV production depending on customer demand in the market. And as a result, operating cash flow actually rose by over 60% last quarter. And again, even their EVs will be profitable thanks to more strategic production. Keep in mind, Tesla, a pure play EV maker that doesn't have that same ability, actually saw a 90% decline in cash flow during the same quarter. But on top of that, GM was also able to reduce the price of their Cadillac Lyriq EV by $12,000, which is already their second best-selling Cadillac, even among regular ICE vehicles. And their new Chevy Equinox EV will start selling this year for around $35,000 to reach the mass market. Again, I still like Tesla more for other reasons, and I think them going all in on EVs from the start will ultimately pay off for them over the longer term. I've always said that. But my only point here about GM is that as a legacy player, they're at least handling the transition much better than other players that I've seen in the market. And they're showing an ability here to make adjustments when necessary to keep the company operating efficiently, which is why they're still so profitable and even have the ability to not only pay a small dividend, but more importantly, buy back giant amounts of stock. In fact, at the end of last year, they announced not just a huge 33% increase to their dividend, but also a record-breaking $10 billion stock buyback, which equates to around a fifth of all outstanding shares. How crazy is that? And yet, despite all of these improvements and positive news, the stock is actually still dirt cheap, which is reason number 4, as it is still down about a quarter of its value from the top with a PE ratio of less than 5. That's 70% cheaper than the sector median, and even 63% cheaper than their own 5-year average too. Again, for that price, you get some pretty good value in my opinion, which even extends into other future growth opportunities like autonomous driving, which is reason number 5. As most analysts agree that the robotaxi market will be worth trillions of dollars in the future, and GM happens to have one of the most advanced AV and robotaxi platforms in the world with Cruise, who even collected more fully autonomous driving miles in California than both Tesla and even Google's Waymo. Now granted, they've had some major setbacks over the past year, but in the most recent quarter, they've addressed these issues, put AVs with drivers back on the road to continue collecting data and advancing the platform, and they're aiming to go fully autonomous again within the next year as well, which again is just the cherry on top of everything else that we've already gone into detail about. But what do you all think? Again, Tesla is my favorite for different reasons. I see Tesla as a more revolutionary tech company willing to think outside the box and try things that other companies are too afraid to, and that's why I own much more Tesla shares, while GM is still just a relatively tiny position of mine in my portfolio. But I also like GM stock for different reasons too, as more of a value kind of legacy player that I personally feel is doing a pretty good job of adapting to a changing market, which I also believe can support multiple players, including both Tesla and GM. I think it'll be big enough to support multiple players there. But hey, those are just my own thoughts. I'd love to hear what you all have to say down below in the comment section. Do you own Tesla? Do you own GM? Or do you not own any of them? How do you feel about these stocks? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But thanks again for stopping by, my friends. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you're all doing well. I'll catch you in the next one. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.